Massively popular in brief of ongoing progress work on the shutdown of Lagos infrastructure.
We bring all the traffic into this direction.
We are going to work to ensure that better during the areas of the traffic. If we don't do what we need to do now, the road will collapse.
Hello, welcome to another interesting episode of your program Infrastructure Weekly. I am your regular host, Ajibola Onwuchekwa. In this week's episode, as usual, we'll go through the various sectors under the Ministry of Power Works and Housing to visit project sites and give a status update of when of the projects will be delivered and what has changed about them. Join us after this break for the program proper.
Coming together of opportunities, and this is what
Infrastructure is the backbone of development, which explains the Buhari government's effort at bridging the facility gap. Infrastructure Weekly is a television package designed to bring you latest information on hundreds of development projects going on in various sectors all over the nation.
there is no state in Nigeria today where you will not see our contractors busy at work.
Power generation, rural electrification, road rehabilitations, national housing scheme, construction of roads and rail lines across the country, you name it.
We are now able to produce 7,000 megawatt of power. That is no longer debatable.
Infrastructure Weekly is Nigerians working together for a better Nigeria. So be better informed to take better informed decisions. Watch Infrastructure Weekly, showing on Channels Television Thursdays 2:30 p.m., NTA Network Wednesdays 5 p.m., and Core TV News Fridays at 8 p.m. Infrastructure Weekly, making development known.
We begin today from the power sector. For some time now, the issue of access to power for rural dwellers has been one that many Nigerians have identified as one of the major reasons behind the unprecedented level of rural-urban migration. With this in mind, the federal government, through the Rural Electrification Agency, has launched an initiative that will help to gain access to electricity for rural dwellers to enhance development at the grassroots and ensure reduction in rural-urban migration. The initiative, which is a pilot project to start from 5 states, will connect 70 communities to electricity through off-grid solutions. The initiative, according to the Minister of Power Works and Housing, Babatunde Fashola, is part of an integrated development for plan of the rural areas.
Young Nigerians under 40 years of age presently constitute the membership of the board of the Nigeria Rural Electrification Agency, including the Managing Director, Damilola Ogunbiyi. Minister of Power Works and Housing, Babatunde Fashola, says the Rural Electrification Plan has enabled the federal government to access about $200 million to run a pilot in 70 communities in 5 states of the Federation. Gora community in Karu local government area of Nasarawa State is one of the dozen communities having access to electricity, whether on mini-grid or off-grid, and this demonstrates that the government is working.
We are going to run a pilot of 70 communities like you in 5 states, while we continue to gather more data of where communities like you are who do not have access. So it's a story of access that we really want to tell. So one of the reasons why I'm happy to have you here is that you are the faces of access to electricity under this administration. This will also demonstrate to those who do not know that while we are working to fix the challenges of the grid, when we are saying that we are now generating 7,000 megawatt and we have distribution challenges, our work doesn't start and end on the grid. More communities are getting electricity off the grid, and Gora is an example of what we have done with off-grid power.
This valuable development has made it possible for my people to be at home and view the achievement of this administration, more especially in the areas of power, road construction, rail construction, housing, Ample Borrowers Program, Empower, Trader Money, amongst others. Number 1, education. A sense of equality and bridge of gap between the performance of our children in the villages and the children in the cities are now evidenced as they can now study at night. Our teachers that were living in the cities are now coming to seek for accommodation in the villages, and by doing that, they will give more attention to our children's education. The solar power has increased the study time of our children at home, which has resulted in better performance and better grade. Number 2, health. Access to our television has improved our health knowledge, which has resulted in the change of our health behavior. Better health from improved knowledge and storage facilities from refrigeration. Better health from cleaner air as households have reduced the use of fossil fuels for cooking, lighting, and heating. Some of the communities have now connected their boreholes with solar power, and pipe-borne water is now available. No more drinking of contaminated water from ponds and streams. Thus, our health has improved.
Fashola says that apart from providing electricity to the community, the present administration is also ensuring they are connected to roads, rail, and bridges. He emphasizes that the rural and farming communities are the most critical pillars of diversification of the nation's economy and is of major concern to this government.
The last administration delayed the implementation of the strategic rural electrification plan by 10 years. So it was not done until 2016. And as soon as we presented it to President Buhari, he had no difficulty at all in approving it. It is that plan that is impacting your communities today. And you are one of the dozens of communities that have been impacted. Rural communities like you, farming communities like you, are the most critical pillars of the diversification of the Nigerian economy. They are the treasure stores of nutrition, food. They are the treasure house of building materials, quarries, mining pits, granite pits. And so our attention is particularly focused on rural communities under the direction of the president. What is good for the people in the cities must be good for the people in the rural communities. That is our mandate, and we will deliver it.
The minister adds that the data of communities yet to access electricity would be gathered so as to extend power to them.
If you're just joining us, the program is still Infrastructure Weekly, where we extract the achievements of the Muhammadu Buhari administration in the area of infrastructure development. You can get in touch with us for more comments, inquiries, and feedback on Facebook. That's Infrastructure Weekly, and on Twitter at Infra_Weekly. And still staying with the power sector, the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation has disclosed plans to build more independent power plants in Abuja, Kaduna, and Kano. The plant, according to the Chief Financial Officer of the NNPC subsidiary gas and power investment company, Isiaq Abdulrazak, is expected to add 4,000 megawatts to the national grid. We'll be back after this break for more on the program. Stay tuned.
Dear lottery operator, you've done a remarkable job so far getting into a business that has been highly criticized for many years. You've done well to uphold your credibility and boost confidence in the business. Kudos to you. This is just to remind you of the rules of the game as prescribed by the National Lottery Regulatory Commission. Gaming is not for persons under 18. Underage gaming is prohibited. Report illegal operators to the Commission, and also always remember the regulatory job of the Commission. Whatever your category, lotteries, sport betting, promos, scratch cards, games, it is the duty of the Commission to protect lottery players and the operators, as well as promote transparency and accountability. Licensees are also expected to play their part, which includes remittances to the National Lottery Trust Fund. For more information, please go to natlotteregcom.gov.ng. The National Lottery Regulatory Commission. Lottery the right way.
Thanks so much for staying tuned. The program is still Infrastructure Weekly. You can get in touch with us on any of the social media handles showing on your screen. Following his re-election for another 4-year term in the 2019 general elections, we take a look at the achievements of the Buhari administration in the area of infrastructure development and employment generation through ongoing projects across the country. Let's take a listen.
Nigeria's overdependence on oil revenue had been a great challenge to this government as a result of instability in the prices of oil in the last 4 years. Despite this challenge, President Muhammadu Buhari's administration has identified infrastructure development as one of the areas that will further place the economy on the path of inclusive, diversified, and sustainable growth in order to lift a significant number of Nigerians out of poverty.
We are going to make significant inroads in advancing road, rail, and power projects across the country. The Ministry of Power, Works and Housing is one of the drivers of this government's commitment to renew and increase Nigeria's stock of infrastructure in order to achieve global economic competitiveness as targeted under the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan.
In Nigeria's recent history, an unprecedented allocation of 12.7 trillion naira was spent on infrastructure in the 2016 and 2017 budgets. President Muhammadu Buhari's government did not stop, as there was also Nigeria's first ever diaspora targeted Eurobond that raised $300 million used to fund part of the 2017 budget, and Africa's first sovereign green bond that raised 10.69 billion naira used to fund infrastructure projects. The Buhari administration has demonstrated a strong commitment to upgrading and developing Nigeria's transport, power, education, and health infrastructure.
Our progress report on public works relating to roads and bridges also confirms that we have fulfilled our promise. We have recovered the thousands of jobs that we were set out initially to do. This recovery is a result of a very expansive infrastructure spending that saw the works budget grow from 18.132 billion in 2015 to 394 billion in 2018. The outcome is that there is not one state, and I repeat this, there is not one state in Nigeria today where the federal government of Nigeria is not executing at least one road project and where construction workers are engaged on sites.
In May 2018, the federal government launched the Presidential Infrastructure Development Fund under the management of the Nigerian Sovereign Investment Authority. While in 2014, the federal government invested 14 billion naira on transport, 34 billion naira on agriculture and water, 106 billion naira on power works and housing. 2017 recorded a great turnaround under the President Muhammadu Buhari's administration, as those figures jumped to 127 billion naira for transport, 130 billion naira for agriculture and water, and 325 billion naira for power works and housing infrastructure projects.
We acknowledge that the work is not finished, but as long as we remain able to finance projects, I have no doubt in my mind that it will get better. Our intervention on roads does not stop on interstate roads and highways. It has also entered the universities. As a first phase, we are operating now in 14 federal universities where unattended internal roads are now receiving attention in the University of Nigeria, Nsukka, Federal University of Ekiti, University of Benin, Federal University Lafia, Federal University Utuoke Bayelsa, Bayero University Kano, Federal University of Technology Owerri, University of Maiduguri, Federal University Lokoja, Federal Polytechnic Bauchi, and Federal University Gashua, Kaduna Polytechnic, Federal College of Education Katsina, and the University College Ibadan. This is the first phase under the 2017 budget, and we are preparing to do more under the 2018 budget.
The 2018 procurement is ongoing and will award more. So you should be able to give tremendous credit to this administration for having awarded 121 roads within 3 years, vis-a-vis 144 roads within 17 years by the previous administrations put together.
Abuja's light rail system was completed and started operation in 2018. The first line, which was launched by the president himself, connects the city center with the airport with a link to the Abuja-Kaduna railway line. The Buhari administration has successfully carried out the construction and reconstruction of several road and rail projects across the country in the last 4 years in order to reduce travel time and transportation of goods and services.
May I therefore assure Nigerians of federal government's continued support for all the negotiations towards the realization of the Abuja light rail system. Today, what we have in the Federal Capital Territory is another evidence that we are a government that delivers on its promises.
In the power sector, there was more than 2,000 megawatts of additional power generation capacity by the end of 2018. Some were via publicly owned power plants such as Afam Fast Power, 240 megawatts, while others are through private sector investments supported by the federal government, such as Azura 450 megawatts. To resolve the liquidity challenges in the power sector by guaranteeing payments to generating companies and gas suppliers, the government of President Muhammadu Buhari launched a 701 billion naira payment assurance program.
We are still in the process of delivering additional generation. In Kaduna, we are expecting 215 megawatt in a matter of a few months. In Afam 4, we are expecting 240 megawatt to be finished in a matter of weeks and latest a few months. In Kashimbila, all our equipment is on site to add 40 megawatt. In Gurara, we are expecting 30 megawatt. We are just now doing what you call snag management. And in Dadinkowa, 29 megawatt. There are also power plants whose works have started in 9 universities out of 37. The 9 represent a first phase. And there are 15 markets and 2 big hydropower plants of 700 megawatt in Zungeru and 3,050 megawatt in Mambila.
This administration also initiated a transmission expansion and rehabilitation program, which has resulted in a 50% expansion in grid capacity since 2015, from 5,000 megawatts to over 7,125 megawatts.
We are also planning to deliver additional transmission from 90 projects nationwide, with Akbo, Mayobelwa, Damaturu, Maiduguri, Odogunyo, and Ejibu being examples of recently completed one. As I said recently, Transmission Company of Nigeria is now in a situation where within 30 to 60 days cycle, they are delivering one or more transmission projects to completion over the last 1 year. We expect this to go on.
The federal government also launched the Distribution Expansion Program, which was approved by the Federal Executive Council in February 2018 to ensure the delivery of 2,000 megawatts of unused power capacity to consumers in need. The implementation commenced with the issuance in May 2018 of a call for tenders for the procurement of distribution substations and electrical equipment.
There are also many distribution projects, over 100 by the Niger Delta Power Holding Company at different stages of completion.
Over 7,000. Transmission capacity is now at 8,000. Distribution has gone up to about 5,200 maximum. So we all recognize that the challenge to get a better experience to consumers now is to raise the distribution while we keep raising transmission and distribution.
The federal government in 2018 also set aside 35.4 billion naira to address the housing needs of the nation under the National Housing Program. Public works are being undertaken in over 30 states of the Federation, including the Federal Capital Territory, where 1, 2, 3-bedroom bungalows as well as a 3-story building will soon be completed. Also, federal secretariats in Zamfara, Bayelsa, Nasarawa, and Ekiti are part of the many projects under President Muhammadu Buhari's administration.
Most of the states, you visit, you find empty buildings, empty houses, and studies show that they either were not built with consultation and conformity with what people want, or people could not afford them. So we were very clear that the country should decide in consultation with the people what kind of house they want. So we're running pilots, and after the pilots are tested and people accept them and they can afford them, then the market will open for rapid mass deployment.
The federal government has also continued work on key strategic roads under construction and rehabilitation across the country. Work is at various stages of completion on these strategic roads, with immense socio-economic benefits including rehabilitation of Ilorin-Jeba Mokwa Benin Gwari Kaduna Road, dualization of Oyo Ogbomosho Ilorin Road, and rehabilitation of Gombe Numanyola Road, Kano Meduguri Road, rehabilitation of Sokoto Tambuwa Jega Road, and expansion of Lagos Ibadan Dual Carriageway, construction of Loko Oweto Bridge over River Benue in Nasarawa and Benue states. All these projects that have been undertaken by the President Muhammadu Buhari's administration in the last 4 years is expected to yield a greater, prosperous, and more developed Nigeria in the next 4 years.
Join us after this break as we hit the home stretch to this week's episode of the program. Stay tuned.
Coming together of opportunities, and this is what
Infrastructure is the backbone of development, which explains the Buhari government's effort at bridging the facility gap. Infrastructure Weekly is a television package designed to bring you latest information on hundreds of development projects going on in various sectors all over the nation.
There is no state in Nigeria today where you will not see our contractors busy at work.
Power generation, rural electrification, road rehabilitations, national housing scheme, construction of roads and rail lines across the country, you name it.
We are now able to produce 7,000 megawatt of power. That is no longer debatable.
Infrastructure Weekly is Nigerians working together for a better Nigeria. So be better informed to take better informed decisions. Watch Infrastructure Weekly, showing on Channels Television Thursdays 2:30 p.m., NTA Network Wednesdays 5 p.m., and QTV News Fridays at 8 p.m. Infrastructure Weekly, making development known.
Thanks so much for staying with us on the program. Next week is another time, and until then, be a good citizen, pay your tax, protect public utilities and infrastructure, and above all, eschew violence and continue to support government efforts aimed at enhancing infrastructure developments. Thanks so much for staying tuned. I am Ajibola Onwuchekwa. Bye for now.
We are going partly due to the fact that the P30 was